Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Deep Sleep Stories invites you to wrap yourself in the warmth of a cozy blanket as you settle into a sleeping train on a snowy night. You close your eyes and feel the gentle sway of the carriage, the rhythmic lullaby of wheels on tracks carrying you through a winter wonderland. In this tale, you will board an overnight train where windows frame a world of glistening snow and muted starlight, and you will nestle into your berth while listening to the soft murmurs of a journey across a dreaming countryside. Breathe slowly and allow the comforting motion to soothe you as we begin. You are tucked under a warm blanket on a long, sleeping train gliding through a cold landscape. Outside, snowflakes swirl in the dark, catching the glow of lanterns on distant cottages. The train hums like a well-loved lullaby, its rhythm steady and patient, as if whispering that there is no rush, no urgency, only the gentle onward movement. Your hands rest on the soft wool of the blanket, feeling its weight and warmth. The coach is dimly lit and the windows mist with the warmth of sleeper's breath. Occasionally, a lamp sways gently with the movement of the cars, casting slow shadows across the wooden paneling and brass fixtures. In the tiny cabin across the aisle, an elderly woman has fallen asleep with a book open on her lap. Her gray hair glows like silver in the soft light, and her breathing is slow and even. Beyond her feet, a pair of boots are neatly aligned, touched by the light of a night watch candle. The conductor moves quietly through the corridor, checking on passengers with a lantern held low, shoes barely whispering against the carpeted floor. He knows the route by heart. He can feel each curve and slight incline in the rails, and hears the distinctive hum of bridges and tunnels before they come. His presence is reassuring, like a steady heartbeat. Outside the window, the night is a tapestry of dark forest silhouettes and white open fields. The snow softens all sound, so that even when the train passes through a small village, there is only the faintest echo of its presence. Icicles hang from station roofs like crystalline curtains, and the lamps at the station shine like tiny moons. The train slows occasionally to glide through these quiet places, as if it too is reluctant to disturb the sleep of houses nestled in the snow. The whistle is blown only gently, its note long and low, more song than warning. As the miles drift past, you sense stories around you. The carriage is filled with passengers you have only glimpsed, each wrapped in their own dreams. Somewhere toward the front, a young couple share a cup of tea, their murmurs blending with the soft clink of porcelain. In the compartment behind yours, a father hums a lullaby to his daughter, inventing a tune as he goes. His voice is full of love and patience. The girl's eyes flutter as she listens, and soon her breathing matches the rhythm of the train. In the center of the train, the dining car has become a place of quiet midnight magic. The tables are dressed with white linen and small vases of evergreen branches. A slender man with a gray beard, the steward, stands behind a counter polishing silverware to keep his hands busy. He has arranged a plate of biscuits and fruit for any traveler who might wander in. The faint smell of cinnamon and clove lingers in the air, remnants of earlier tea service. On one table, a book lies open to a map of the route, drawn in delicate lines across the pages. Even the map seems to slow the mind. Its gentle curves and small stations set against a pale blue river. Between the cars and the vestibules, passengers occasionally step out for fresh air. They wrap scarves around their mouths and lean into the night, breathing in the crisp cold that makes their cheeks tingle. One man wearing a heavy coat and cap rests his hand on the railing and looks up at the stars. They seem brighter out here, away from city lights. He thinks of loved ones sleeping somewhere under the same sky. For a long moment, he allows his mind to drift, guided by the rhythm of the wheels and the sight of constellations tracing slow arcs. The train crosses a wide trestle bridge over a deep gorge, and though most passengers continue to sleep, you sense the subtle change in the sound. The wheels on the rails emit a slightly higher pitch, the musical hum that echoes through the steel and out into the night air. Below, a half-frozen river winds between snow-covered rocks, its flow slowed by the cold. The moonlight traces the curve of the water, gleaming like liquid silver. The bridge creaks gently as it bears the weight of the train. It's an old structure, but sturdy and trusted. The train has crossed this gorge countless times, in all seasons, always carrying its passengers safely across. At a remote station beyond the gorge, the train stops briefly. The platform is deserted, and a few snowdrifts lie like sleeping creatures against the walls. One lonely lantern is lit. Its flame flickers in the wind. The conductor steps onto the platform, his warm breath visible in the cold air. He carefully checks the wheels and couplings, making sure that nothing is amiss. The engineer opens the small window of the engine cab and exchanges a few quiet words with the station master. Somewhere, a barn owl calls, its cry echoing across the empty tracks. Then, with a soft nod, the conductor signals for the train to depart once more, and they ease forward, the rhythm resuming. The sleeping train continues, making its way through mountain passes and along frozen lakes. Sometimes you imagine the journey in other seasons, fields of wildflowers in summer, leaves aflame with color in autumn, tender shoots pushing through spring soil. Tonight, though, everything is enveloped in winter's hush. The trees stand like ink drawings on a white page. The moon hangs like a pearl. Inside, the warmth contrasts with the cold outside, and the blanket covering you feels like an embrace. In a compartment at the far end of the train, an elderly musician named Pavel sleeps with his violin resting on the cushioned seat beside him. Before drifting off, he had played a few gentle melodies, tunes from his childhood, songs he remembered his grandmother humming by the hearth. The notes have lingered in the air, weaving themselves into the fabric of the night. His hands, even in sleep, seem to remember the motions of music, fingers twitching slightly, as if pressing strings. His presence adds an aura of artistry to the journey, an unseen thread connecting all the sleepers through sound. Back in your compartment, you adjust the blanket around your shoulders and let your thoughts wander. You recall the day's journey before boarding, the snowflakes on the station platform, the rush of warm air when you stepped inside the train, the polite smile of the station porter. Now all of that feels distant. The world is reduced to this cocoon of soft seats, muted sounds, and the occasional flicker of passing light. You listen to the wind as it whispers along the outside of the train, like a gentle voice telling a story of winter nights and journeys taken. Time seems to slow within the sleeping train. The hours unfold as if in a dream, each moment stretching like the train's long cars across the tracks. In the lounge car, a few insomniac souls sit by the windows, sipping chamomile tea and watching the world go by. One man writes a letter with a fountain pen, the scratch of nib on paper blending with the soft soundscape. He pauses often, gazing out into the dark as if to find the right words in the stars. A woman sits across from him knitting a scarf. Each stitch is a meditation, a repetition of gentle movements that calm her mind. The scarf grows slowly, row by row, like the miles passing beneath the train. Every so often the train passes through a tunnel carved into the mountains. The world outside disappears for a moment, replaced by darkness and the echo of the engine. Inside, lamps glow warmly, and the sound intensifies, then softens again as they emerge into open air. Tunnels are like pauses in a sentence, spaces between words that allow the listener to breathe. They add a rhythm to the journey, a series of quiet interludes that lull you deeper into rest. As the night deepens, so too does the sense of togetherness among the sleeping passengers. Though strangers, they share the experience of being carried through the night by this gentle machine. If you could listen more closely, you would hear a symphony of breaths, each in its own cadence, yet collectively forming a harmonious whole. There is a comfort in this shared stillness, an understanding that each traveler is wrapped not only in a blanket but also in the protection of the train and the care of the crew. In the early hours of the morning, the sleeping train approaches a wider valley where a sleepy town lies. Here, the engineer is careful to reduce speed even further so as not to wake the townsfolk. The houses in the valley are dark, only a few windows, Emit a faint glow. Snow sits on the roofs in soft mounds. A dog stirs, raising its head as the train glides by, ears flickering, then lays its head down again. The sound of the train is like a sigh, a low hum that blends with the wind, passing without disturbance. Beyond the valley, the terrain opens into an expanse of fields where the snow lies untouched, except for the meandering trail of a fox or the delicate traces of winter birds. Even now, life persists quietly under the snow. Seeds rest in the frozen earth, waiting for spring. Creatures hibernate in burrows, warm and safe. The train's presence feels like a guardian, a witness to the cycle of seasons that continue in their own time. The thought comforts you. The world outside is sleeping too, and you are part of this vast, shared rest. Long before you ever boarded, the sleeping train was dreamed up by those who loved the romance of travel and the peace of the night. Craftsmen carved its wooden interiors with care, smoothing the grain and polishing until the warm sheen reflected lamplight like honey. Upholsterers chose fabrics in soothing colors and soft textures, fabrics that reminded one of home. The engine was assembled with a precision and tenderness not unlike that of a watchmaker. In the old rail yard, where the train first gleamed, workers ran their hands along the length of its cars, proud to have built something meant to cradle people as they crossed winter landscapes. Over decades, the train has become part of the rhythm of the towns it passes through. Children are raised to the window to wave at the sleeping car as it glides by, and elders tell stories of their first journeys, of how the gentle swaying and quiet whistle lulled them to sleep decades ago. The train itself seems to remember all of these touches and voices. It carries them like echoes in its carriages, adding to the sense of history that envelops you as you rest. At the very front of the train, the engineer sits in a small, warm cabin filled with gauges, levers, and windows that frame the night. His gloved hands rest lightly on the controls, feeling every vibration of the rails. He has driven this route through many seasons, and he can tell, even without looking, whether the train is crossing open fields, climbing gentle grades, or gliding over bridges. He learned his craft from his father, who also drove trains and taught him to listen to the engine as one listens to a musical instrument. Each sound tells a story. The slight change of tone when crossing a frozen stream, the rhythm shift when they enter a tunnel, the whisper of snow brushing the undercarriage. He hums quietly to himself, matching his tune to the heartbeat of the machine. In his memories, there are nights like this, with heavier snows, and nights when fog hung low over the rails like a silk scarf. Each trip strengthens his love for the journey and his respect for the train that faithfully carries families, lovers, and dreamers through the night. Knowing this gives him great calm, and that calm radiates through the train. Somewhere further back, the young boy travels with his grandmother on his way to visit relatives he has not seen since last summer. He clutches a small stuffed bear, its fur well worn from being held tight each night. The boy presses his face against the cold glass of the window, watching the snowflakes fly past like tiny comets. He imagines that the train is a magical beast, roaring softly through enchanted forests on an epic quest. His grandmother smiles and tells him stories of trains from her youth, of coal-fired locomotives puffing clouds of steam like dragons, of porters in crisp uniforms balancing trays of cocoa and biscuits. The boy listens with wide eyes, drawing pictures in his mind of these past times. His eyelids grow heavy as she speaks, and soon he surrenders to sleep, the bear cradled against his chest. The gentle rocking and the cadence of his grandmother's voice weave together, wrapping him in dreams that mirror the snowy world rushing by outside. His journey is just beginning, and already it is filled with wonder and comfort. The train glides past dark orchards and frozen fields where fruit trees stand in neat rows. Further in the distance, a church spire rises above the rooftops of a village, and faint smoke curls up from chimneys, mingling with the cold air. You see the silhouettes of deer at the edge of a clearing, ears alert, tails flicking, lifting their heads as if they sense the train's approach. They stand motionless for a breath, then bound gracefully into the wood, leaving delicate hoofprints in the snow. In a barn near the tracks, a farmer pauses his work and leans against a door frame, watching the cars slide by. His lantern casts an amber glow that melts the surrounding snow, just a little, sending up wisps of steam. A dog trots alongside the rails for a few paces, tongue lolling happily before turning back toward a warm stable. These glimpses of life outside are like tiny vignettes in a long, gentle film, each one adding texture to the journey. They remind you that the world continues, its quiet rhythms even as you doze, and that you are part of a larger tapestry of winter nights and quiet watchfulness. While winter lends the train its hushed beauty, this line has carried sleepers through every season. In spring, the fields you now see white with snow are dotted with the bright green of new grass, and the train's windows open to let in scents of rain and wildflowers. Farmers wave from tractors as they prepare the soil, and lambs gambol under the watchful eyes of ewes. Summer brings another mood, long days filled with light, evenings where the sun lingers, casting golden rays through the compartments. Outside, fireflies dance over meadows at dusk, and the train passes beneath leafy canopies where cicadas sing their tireless songs. In autumn, the countryside is ablaze with red and gold. Leaves whirl in the wake of the carriages, and the scent of wood smoke from harvested fields drifts through open vestibule doors. Each season paints the journey with its own palette, and the train adapts, offering cool relief in summer and warmth in winter. Knowing this broadens your sense of the train's life, reminding you that what feels like a singular moment is also part of a cycle that repeats year after year. Beneath the comfort and ease of your ride lies a world of precision and care. Track workers braved the cold days before this journey, walking miles along the rails to inspect every tie and bolt. They tightened fastenings and cleared branches, ensuring the path was safe. In workshops, mechanics oiled gears and tested brakes, listening for any hint of strain that might need tending. They know that the passengers who sleep so trustingly are depending on their hands. Signal keepers tend their lamps and switches, coordinating with stations miles away to guide the train along its path. In the night, their small lights shine like stars, aligned to show the way. Even the coal that feeds the engine is selected with thought, chosen for its ability to burn cleanly and steadily. When you think of all these unseen caretakers, you feel an even deeper gratitude for the seamlessness of the journey. It is their labor, quietly offered, that allows you to relax completely, hearing only the hushed song of wheels on rails. As the train inches closer to morning, the faint aroma of breakfast begins to weave through the sleeping cars. The steward cracks eggs into a warm pan, their sizzle subdued so as not to disturb anyone's rest. Fresh bread warms in the oven, ready to be sliced and served with butter and jam. Someone grinds coffee, the rich, earthy fragrance drifting like a wake-up call through the corridor. You can almost taste the sweetness of honey stirred into hot tea, the crispness of an apple that has been kept cool in the pantry. Even these simple preparations are done with care, mindful of the quiet that still envelops the compartments. The promise of nourishment blends with the lingering calm of night, creating a gentle transition from dreams to waking. Though you may not be quite ready to leave your warm blanket and the soft cadence of the train, knowing that there is hot food and kind company waiting in the dining car, makes the idea of morning seem just as comforting as the night. As dawn approaches, faint light begins to outline the horizon. The sky shifts from deep black to dark blue, then to a subtle gradient of gray and rose. The train still moves gently, but there is a hint of the coming day. The crew stir in their compartments, preparing for arrival. The engineer checks gauges and adjusts the throttle, anticipating the gentle stop at the next major station. In the kitchen of the dining car, the steward places fresh coffee beans in the grinder and sets water to boil, careful not to make noise. The smell of roasted beans will soon filter through the carriages, offering a gentle invitation to wake. Within your mind, however, you remain between sleep and wakefulness. The blanket is still warm, and you nestle deeper into its folds. You are aware of the first light, but let it wash over you without pulling you away from rest. You imagine the train not only tonight, but on other nights and other winters, carrying generations of travelers across the same tracks. There is a continuity in this simple motion. The wheels turning, the snow falling, the moon and stars keeping watch. Finally, the sleeping train begins to slow as it nears the morning station. The brakes hiss softly. The wheels sing. The conductor moves gracefully through the car, whispering gentle words to those who must disembark, but his voice is so soft that it barely reaches your ears. He taps lightly on doors, and the passengers stir. Outside, the platform lights are brighter now, casting long beams of gold across the tracks. The station clock shows an early hour, and a few station workers stand ready, their breath forming clouds in the air. Though the journey is ending, the feeling of warmth and comfort remains. You take one last moment to savor the sensation of the blanket, the gentle motion, and the quiet camaraderie of sleeping travelers. When at last you stand and gather your things, you carry with you not only your belongings, but also the memory of this night. The gliding train, the whispered stories, and the rhythm that lulled you so deeply. Even after you have stepped onto the platform and the train has continued on its way, you will recall this softness whenever you need rest. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep well, and may the memory of the sleeping train always envelop you in peace.